So we're going to take a look at another question. This one also comes from the 2023 HSC Standard 2 Maths paper. So this is question 17. We're told a table shows some of the flight distances to the nearest 10 kilometres between various Australian cities. Use the information in the table to complete the network diagram where the edges are labelled with the distances. Okay, so when we have a look at this, we're going to draw a little box. If you're doing this in the exam, you'll just do this in the provided box. We're going to do it on this side of our screen. So we have P, D, A, we have H, we have S, and we have B. So from Perth to Darwin, we're told immediately is 2650. We're assuming P is Perth and D is Darwin in this diagram. So now we just need to fill in all the lines. Well, Adelaide connects directly to two places, to Hobart and to Perth. So from A we go to H, and then from A we go to P. From Adelaide to Hobart is 1170. From Adelaide to Perth is 2120. Brisbane connects to Darwin and to Sydney. So we need to connect Brisbane to Darwin and then Brisbane to Sydney. Brisbane to Darwin is 2850. Brisbane to Sydney is 750. We've got Darwin connects three places, to Brisbane, to Perth and to Sydney. So Brisbane and Perth are already done, so we need to connect it to Sydney down here. This is 3150. Hobart connects to Adelaide and Sydney. So it's already connected to Adelaide. Now we have to connect it to Sydney. So this is 1040. And then we've also got Sydney. So we've got Perth and Sydney remaining. Perth connects to Adelaide, it connects to Darwin, and it connects to Sydney. We've got the connection to Adelaide. We've got the connection to Darwin. We don't have the connection to Sydney. That'll go this way. That will be 3270. And then Sydney connects four places to Brisbane, Darwin, Hobart, and Perth, and they're already done. So for part A, use the information in the table to complete the network diagram where the edges are labelled with distances. This is approximately what we're after. Something like this. Your graph should look like this. Try and use straight lines. Try and label the nodes. The nodes are pretty much labelled for you in the template diagram, but if you have to do one yourself, try and make this as obvious as is possible. So this is part A. For part B, you're told Masha wants to travel from Hobart to Darwin. She wants to change planes only once. Using the network diagram, calculate how many kilometres she will travel by plane. So she wants to go from Hobart to Darwin. So we need to look at all of the paths from Hobart to Darwin that only have one flight connection. So she can go from Hobart to Adelaide to Perth to Darwin, but that has more than one connection. She can go from Hobart to Sydney to Brisbane to Darwin, that has more than one. She can go to Hobart, Sydney, Perth, Darwin, that has more than one. The only one that has one is Hobart to Sydney to Darwin. So she's going to be following the Hobart to Sydney to Darwin path. Now we're asked to calculate how many kilometres she'll travel. Well, this is going to be the distance from Hobart to Sydney plus the distance from Sydney to Darwin. So the total distances, which we'll call TD, are 1040 plus 3150. So this is 4,190. 4,190. This is the total distance travelled by plane, and this is in kilometres. And so this is what we're after for this question. Now, in terms of the marking, part A is worth 2 marks, part B is worth 1 mark. For the 2 marks of part A, you will need some attempt to complete this network diagram, so some reasonable number of correct weighted edges. For 2 marks, you will need the correct network diagram, so exactly what we have listed here. For the second part of the question, it's just 1 mark. You get 1 mark for the correct number, the 4190 kilometres, no marks for anything else. So this is question 17, and this is how the marking works.